This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz Podcast.
We are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code Dan for a special offer when you sign up. That's code Dan, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Greg, we're very happy to have located you. Have they told you at all why we're calling? Do you have any guesses as to why we're calling?
I don't have any guesses. My role on the show came up on my podcast this week. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's wild rumors about me planning to dye my hair. I cannot imagine why you're calling. Maybe Charles Bricker has been located. What do I know?
Well, that is what's happened. I'm very happy that that's the guess that you've made, because I felt like you left with some fear last week because you thought we were going to spring him on you, and we are going to spring him on you. So before I do that, though, can you just tell me how you feel in general right now about talking to your nemesis for the first time, and how long has it been?
Oh, gosh. I feel perfectly fine, because if either of us has held a grudge since the early 90s, it speaks ill of the grudge holder. I didn't get along with Charles Bricker during the couple of years when I covered the Dolphins, and I have long since, buried that hatchet.
Well, not long since, because he wasn't real happy when I called him and I told him the reason, because he was obviously mystified as to why I was calling him after all these years. And I said it's because Greg Cote said that on our show that if he could kill anybody and not have any consequences, he would kill Charles Bricker.
Oh, gosh, but hopefully nobody took me seriously. I mean, that's a
well. I don't know. Well, we'll bring in Charles now. Charles, do you want to say hello to Greg Cote after all of these years?
Hello,
Greg.
Charles, how you doing?
I'm okay. A bit of a strange circumstance here. They're telling me you want to kill me.
Oh, gosh, that was just a joke. Listen, if anybody really took that seriously, there would have been a cop knocking on my door. The reason I say that, Charles, in my long career, and you've had a long career as well in this business, in my long career, I have probably been at odds with only a couple of colleagues, with a couple of other writers, and you were one over a couple of things, but and so that's why your name came up. But obviously, there's any animus I once held has long dissipated.
No, I know it's a joke. I was surprised to hear your name. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a long time. The Colonel says hello.
Oh, Greg! Hey, the Colonel. Yes. Craig Barnes, one of the all-time great characters in the history of South Florida media.
Yeah. So I don't quite understand what this show is. I looked for it on the radio. I couldn't. This is a show you do that.
Yeah, it's the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugatz, which is a very popular national podcast, and I'm on once a week as sort of like a weekly guest co-host, so to speak. And the when I was on, I think last week it was, I forget how all this came up. It's sort of an extemporaneous conversation we have, and it leads in all different directions. And your name came up unexpectedly, so that's how it happened.
My daughter was asking me what this was about, and I told her, I said, as a Greg Cote, probably not a fan of mine. I could be a bit of a handful, but the only thing I can think is, you probably don't remember this, but I got into it with your wife one time in a pretty heated way. And I thought I wonder if does anyone remember? Do you remember that?
Well, I do remember that, Charles. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't think much of you at that time, is that according to my wife, who I'm still married to, you hung up on her. We shared a phone at Dolphins camp, and you hung up on her when she was trying to reach me, which I didn't think very kindly. It's interesting, Charles, for you to admit that you were quite a handful. You had a persona that you put across that a lot of other writers didn't like. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's been a lot of years, and I went through something that, in your later years, you hope to soften a little bit. Right. And there's no way you remember this. I'm sure no one does, but I had a week where I would do my football picks, and I missed every game. And
yes, I remember that.
You do?
I do remember that. And I'll tell you why, Charles, because you and I both used to pick games, and our record was in the paper every week. It was out there for everybody to see. And as somebody who predicted games every week, both straight up and against the spread, I think you would admit you couldn't go winless against the spread if you tried. It's almost as hard as getting every game right. To get every game wrong is just such a stroke of bad luck. That's why it stood out to me. That's why I still remember that there was a week when you went 0-14, I think it was. And I don't know, I didn't realize it had traumatized you, but I do remember that. Yep.
Well, it did a bit. I mean, I guess good came out of it, but I received a lot of letters back at the old Sentinel, and people were making fun of me. And I went down a bit of a hole. I guess my ego had gotten a little too big. Right. And I really, I took a turn, and it seems silly to say it out loud now over some football picks, but I went into a bit of a depression. I'd never experienced it before. And at the end of a real rough week, I found myself just sitting on the side of my bed, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. These are football picks. Right. But, you have these feelings, and they keep going. And long story short, I found myself in a dark, dark place. I went up to Tampa for a bit of a lost weekend, and I always kept a handgun in my car just for safety reasons. You know how crazy it gets around Florida and Miami. And at the end of that weekend in Tampa, I found myself staring at the barrel of a gun. And and I pulled the trigger. And fortunately, old fool that I am, I hadn't maintained the gun, and it didn't go off. And
Charles, I had no idea.
And my family came to me, and I was in tears. I just walked in the door, and I just said, I don't know what this is all about. And they tried to tell me no one cares. No one cares that you missed all the football picks. People aren't hanging it on the wall and dancing around it. And I realized at that point I had just become an old narcissistic joke. And I realized that I had put together this shabby identity as a sports writer and was all about me. And I had this beautiful family around me, and I'm kicking around like I'm king of the world, talking about tennis and football, and God damn it, Greg, this is crazy. I'm calling out. I don't barely even know what a podcast is, but tears just streamed down my face, and for once I felt free of this cheap little ego I had built, and I ever since then, life has just been a bright, open sky for me, and all from this crazy thing that I just felt like the world was dancing around this week, and people had it hanging on their wall, and I almost took my own life. But ever since then, I've just been free of it. And so it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow, Charles, that is such a self-revelation by you. It's astounding for me to hear. I didn't know any of that, and I find it extremely admirable. And also what I find admirable, Charles, is the self-awareness you grew to have, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There was a time there where you were very disliked by other writers for the ego, for the persona that you put forth, and you came to realize that. I'm so sorry that 1 week of picks hit you like that, because look, I've had my share of 2 and 12s and 13 and 1s, and or I don't think I ever went winless, but I certainly have.
Yeah, I noticed you're not saying 0 and 14.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm surprised it hit you that deeply, and I sure appreciate that gun didn't go off, because, man,
it's crazy.
I don't care.
You feel like the whole world's looking at you and laughing at you. And I remember my daughter just telling me, Dad, no one cared. And I had these thoughts in my head that people were framing it and looking at it and gloating, and the world felt so dark. And then I just realized, the world's not about me. I'm some second-rate sports writer in Florida. And ever since then, I meditate every morning. Everyone I meet now, I hug. I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't know anything about sports. We're guessing. They're great athletes. I do the best I can. And I could be a handful back then. I mean, not as much, honestly, quite honestly, not as much. Do you still have that firebrand wife? She was a handful.
Yes, I do. Yes. She was a handful.
As lippy as the day is long.
Okay. That's I won't argue with that. But Charles, I have to tell you, my reacquainting with you after all these years in this manner has not gone as I expected it to. The last thing I expected to hear is that you were driven into such a dark place by that 1 week of picks, and I'm sorry to hear it, but I'm so grateful and happy for you that you're in the place you are right now. Truly, it's really been wonderful, Greg, and I just can't recommend it enough. You only get one go around on this big old planet, and I really encourage you. We've got a house in the Gulf, and I'm involved with this group. We're called God's Breath. And it's a group of about 60 or 80 just healthy, loving people. And we live in a big house together, and we share our incomes. And it's just so freeing. And it's not like one of those weird, everyone thinks, oh, what kind of crazy thing is that? Or like a cult. And it's like, no, it's just people that have let their egos go, who are willing to give up their income for the good of God's breath, and are willing to let David, who runs the house, read our mail and to make sure that we're thinking correctly. And Greg, I would love it if you would come up, and you could even bring that lippy wife of yours, God bless her, but she will have to be quiet around David. Honestly, David doesn't like it when people. But you should really come to God's Breath, to our compound, and spend some time. Well, Charles, I will tell you this: I am truly happy that you have found your inner peace after what you went through way back when. I truly am.
So will you come up and join us?
I didn't expect to be put on the spot like this on a national podcast. I'm not going to make a promise I won't keep, Charles. I'm going to be honest with you. That doesn't sound like something for me, but it does not diminish in any way the gladness I feel for you that you found it.
We have a couple of young people who are down around Miami, Sean and Tina. They're beautiful young people, and they're down there. They can swing by. They're driving a gorgeous white conversion van. They can pick you up, and they'll take you up to the Gulf Coast. You give all your possessions to the gentleman at the front window, Barry, and you just stay with us for a week, and it's really wonderful. They're down there now. You give the high sign, and you just let your wife know. Watch the lippiness for a week, really, because she, and I say this in a playful way. She could be a little bit of a.
The feeling was mutual back then, Charles. At the time, I'm not. I'm not going to retrofit it.
I was a handful, but she was whew. I always wondered, if she was an ex-cop or dock worker or something, because the filth mouth in her. But anyway, let them come and pick you up in the conversion van. I'm speaking now, please. And let them pick you up in the conversion van and take you up here to the Gulf Coast and really let the cheap little ego melt away for a week at the God's Breath compound.
Charles, I won't be joining you there, but my thoughts are all happy involving the piece you have found. I just want to leave it at that, and I'm glad we were able to speak after all these years. You should be, if you look out your window, Sean should be driving past your house. If you look out, can you see him? Charles, I'm way down in South Florida.
Oh no, he's down in South Florida.
Okay. Well, I'll keep my eye peeled.
Just Greg, at a certain point, you only get to bounce around this big old marble that we called the planet once. Get in the van. Tell your wife to zip it, not to be a for once in her life. Get in the van and come on up to the compound.
Okay, Charles, you're losing me a little bit with your repeated negative references to my wife. You're the one who hung up on her. I don't want to end this on a bad note.
That's not true. That's not true. I did not hang up on her. When you say she said certain words that someone's going to hang up on you when you say them. You can't blame that on the person.
Okay. All right. Charles, I would like to leave this on a harmonious note. I am truly happy for the peace you have found, and I'm glad you're in a good spot right now. Can we leave it at that?
I still, after all these years, my temper still... It can boil up, and I can't believe even the memory of speaking to your wife. And it started to boil up again, and I clearly have a lot of work to do, and I want to apologize.
That's okay. I understand. You had the conversation with her. I did not. I've heard my version of it, but I don't think after all this time it's worth rehashing. I really don't.
I mean, you know how she just digs and digs and digs. And you say, okay, let's let it go, and she won't. And and I just got to move past that.
Okay, I think we all do.
Yeah, I think that's healthy. Well, we're going to get you up to the God's Breath compound, and we can reminisce about the old days and the Colonel. And what'd you say?
No. I repeated his nickname, the Colonel. That always brought a smile to my face, the Colonel. But Charles, let's leave it at this. I'm happy that you're happy, and I'm happy that you found your inner peace, and that's good to hear.
I love it, Greg, and I agree. Let's leave it at this. Let's get you and your wife, your lippy wife, up to the compound, and let's sit by the beach. She can shush it. and we'll just have a lovely time. And David will really, you'll love David. David's an imposing figure. He's 6'8". He tried to walk on for the Dolphins in the 90s as a tight end, didn't make it. And David is very firm. He has a very strict path that you have to walk, and I think you and your wife are going to love it up there.
Charles, I have to go right now. I didn't imagine we'd be speaking quite this long. I need to run, but I do want to say I'm glad we reacquainted, and I'm happy. I'm happy where you're at right now.
All right, and tell your wife. Tell her sorry about the hanging up years ago, and I hope she's doing well. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. I think I caught the bad side of her in that conversation.
Okay.
She got a little bitchy with me.
Okay.
And,
probably with good cause.
Well, once again, let's not relitigate the past.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. I can tell you, actually, just objectively, not with good cause. She was way out of line. And as you can tell, I still harbor some grudges. By the way, the 0-14, there was a wind-blown field goal for the Seahawks.
Oh, my God.
Pure.
He's had a good memory, Bricker.
Facts are facts.
Okay. Good catching up with you.
All right, good catching up with you.
All right, Charles. Be well.
Be well, Greg.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Goodbye, Greg.
Goodbye, Charles.
Take her easy.
Stu Gatz here for my friends over at Simply Safe. Home security isn't a game. No, it's not, but a lot of companies act like it is, trying to upsell and overcharge you every chance they get. This is why I use and trust Simply Safe Home Security. They are different. Simply Safe is advanced technology that puts the safety of me and my family first. Easy to set up. If I can do it, anyone can. There are no long-term contracts, no hidden fees, and the peace of mind that I get with Simply Safe Home Security is second to none. Simply Safe monitoring agents truly care about your well-being and are highly trained to help you keep calm and safe during stressful situations, staying on the line with you until help arrives. How about that? For caring and peace of mind. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/DLB. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Dan Le Batard.
You sure Stan is okay with this and on board with this? Or, maybe he's cursing you on the way home? I don't know. I'm just saying.
He might be a little sensitive, as most fat people are.
Him leaving the top rope.
Fat was harsh. I take that back. As most heavy people are.
Big boned.
Big boned.
Stu Gatz.
Do people have bigger bones than other people? No, right?
No, it was a myth.
That's not a thing.
No.
Right?
I think it is.
We all have different skeletons, though. Your femur's not the same size as my femur. You know what I mean?
Baby.
Femur is a leg. Why
are
you guys babying?
Whenever anybody says baby, I feel like I have to say it.
It felt like it fit.
I definitely have the smallest femur.
I've heard Abby complain about it.
Baby.
So have I.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stu Gatz.
I need to explain a couple of things here because yesterday we were all shocked around here. Honestly, if you'd seen us in the studio, our mouths were hanging open. I had intended to moderate a repair of the relationship between Greg Cote and his old nemesis, Charles Bricker. And Bricker called us. We've been looking for him for like 10 days. And we found him and we put them together, but the times didn't work inside of the show. It happened right after taping. And so we just called Greg Cote at that moment and we put them together. Mike, Billy, you guys were all here with me. You were as stunned as I was. That was one of the strangest things that I've ever seen happen. And Greg Cote, I mean, you were a picture of composure.
It was when that call ended, and I didn't think it was ever going to end. I finally made an excuse why I had to get off the line. I immediately texted Christopher saying that was the weirdest 20 bleeping minutes of my life.
You were so gentle. You were so gentle.
I mean, the guy was suicidal. He was like bearing his soul and admitting things that I had no idea about. How else should I have been? You know, I felt like he was on a Naugahyde couch and I was counseling him or something. I didn't know how to react. It came out of the blue.
We did get some answers as to why it was so hard to track him down, I guess.
Right. Yeah, he's, I forget the name of that religious...
God's breath.
Don't laugh. You were so gentle, man.
Until he tried to enlist me into his cult.
On this one.
I mean, please.
He's very clearly in a cult.
No.
Well, I mean,
he said it wasn't a cult.
No, that's a cult.
They all
man.
do. They all say it wasn't a cult.
But you're not considering joining?
No, hopefully I'm
specifically said it wasn't a cult.
I give Greg so much credit because you just, when he made that first request, he kind of just sidestepped it. He didn't even acknowledge it.
Right.
And then he goes directly at you, says, no, you're going to come, right?
Right.
And you're like, not for me. Or you had
no, you were great. I'm telling you.
It was respectful.
I mean, I'm telling you, I had intended to just moderate a Sparks discussion that would have been funny. I was going to get in the way. I wanted to get in the way 7 different times, but the things being said were so shocking. And I was so stunned. And Greg did take him in like it was just a conversation between old guys on the phone.
I legit thought it was going to be an argument. I thought Greg was going to get upset and we were going to get like this fireworks argument.
He's a misogynist.
Right.
Like, this is one of the things. What Cody said to us on the front end is that all we knew about Charles Bricker is one of the reasons that he hated him is because on the tennis beat he was mean. He was mean to the women.
Right. Very beyond mean. But he did seem like the 30 years or however long it's been have certainly changed him in bizarre ways. But one of the reasons that whole thing was so Twilight Zone to me was the very fact that nobody from the show was joining us.
I mean, that's your beef. I don't want any of that smoke.
It wasn't, Mike, honestly, the way the guy was talking, I was like, it's not our place to chime in this. This is some deep shit. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, it was too intimate almost for us to interfere. I felt rude.
I mean, not intimate enough for us to not roll on it and get the content out of it.
You know what we do here.
Yeah.
You know what we do.
Greg, like you were, in retrospect, you were so polite in rejecting his overtures. It was like, no, I don't want the dessert at dinner when he was inviting you to join seemingly a cult.
I thought at one point, I could be wrong, I thought at one point he told me that a van was rolling past my house.
Sean and Tina?
To pick me up.
Were you disoriented? Is that what happened? Like when he did say that, I was like, "What? Why is the van rolling past?" But you must have been disoriented because it had to be the weirdest 20 minutes of your life.
No, he very clearly lost his marbles. At that point, I was like, "This guy's off his rocker."
That was the other question I was going to say. Do we know that he's of sound mind?
That occurred to me as I was speaking with him because Charles Bricker was a good bit older than me.
Well, then now
he might be your dad's age. He might be like.
Now I have my regrets.
Yeah, you guys.
But like it seems as though like we're just taking advantage of some dude that lost his marbles.
Greg, who's the Colonel? As you guys got so excited, the Colonel. Who's the Colonel?
That made me laugh out loud. It's an old colleague of ours named Craig Barnes. He was with the Sentinel, so he was like a direct colleague of Bricker's at the time. But everybody called him the Colonel.
Was he in the military before? Or?
I don't know that he was. I don't think it was related to
Mike Elvis's manager. He's just Dutch.
No, let me tell you something about the Colonel because this is
this person?
This is some old timey newspaper shit right here.
Yeah.
The Colonel was a gas bag who pretended like he knew a lot more than he did. Was always holding a thick meaty hand over his mouth because he didn't want anyone to overhear him, whispering his secrets because he knew George Steinbrenner and he was an important player in the media game.
Right, and his pet phrase was, "I tell you what."
And then he would tell you nothing. And then he would tell you nothing.
I was talking to Bobby Bowden the other day, and I'll tell you what.
Mike, if you had a friend named the Colonel, would you want him to sound any other way than like that?
No, he's got to sound like with a southern drawl.
Oh, yeah, he has.
Now, Cody, you got that right.
I'll say.
Introduce the audience to the Colonel. That's old school because I had old school South Florida people like Zaslow reaching out to me saying they didn't remember Charles Bricker. That's how old a rival in the old newspaper wars. That's a 30-year grudge Cody has held.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I
got the thing on the wall, right?
Yeah, you sidestepped that one.
I did.
You have his 0-14 on your wall.
I was
so
looking at it.
tempted there to tell him. It was so awkward.
staring at it.
I was so tempted to jump in and like interrupt you
Right.
and betray you to Charles Bricker because of how good that content would have been if I had said you wouldn't believe this, Bricker, after you tried to kill yourself. It was your daughter was wrong. It was on Greg Cody's
Right.
wall.
It literally
It's
was.
still on his wall.
He was staring at it while
It's
he's on the
still
line.
on his wall.
Right. It is. I have a photo of it in my phone here. The only reason I didn't tweet it out, which might have killed the whole interview, the only reason I didn't tweet it out is that it was a bad photo.
I sincerely hope that part isn't true.
Killed the interview.
But I also hope that
Killed Charles Bricker.
I don't know what I'm hoping for. Is he just an old man that is just lost his marbles, or if he was serious about it, then are we wrong in airing it? Because dude's definitely going through something.
I thought it was very compelling, to be honest with you, that he had a self-revelation, that he looked in the mirror at some point and said, wow, I used to be so egotistical. I was not anyone that anybody else liked. I thought I was king shit, and this is who I was, and I've gotten past that. Granted, I've gotten past that by joining a bizarre cult. Nothing.
You didn't
against
say
God's
anything
breath.
about the bizarre cult. You can't say a bizarre cult. Nothing against God's breath.
Nothing
you
against God's breath.
You can't say joined a bizarre cult.
I'm sorry.
Nothing against God's breath.
It's a beautiful cult.
I have an ethical dilemma with all of this, by the way. I just want to let everyone know that I had nothing to do with this, airing this segment. Charles Bricker, everything that he said, I don't condone any of it.
Jessica wasn't here yesterday.
No,
She's
not
our
part
show's
of it.
moral compass.
We've been
Yeah.
trying to explain to her,
broke.
Jessica. You please take us through this. Please take us through this because we've been trying to explain to Jessica what happened yesterday. Jessica still doesn't know what happened yesterday because she wasn't here. We had to just throw Greg Cote together when Charles Bricker called because I really couldn't believe he was still alive or that the message had gotten to him. We're sure that was Charles Bricker, right? They're like.
I mean, there was certainly a Charles Bricker.
No,
It was the one that we landed on.
Greg, did it sound like
All
that?
the
Guys,
details. He
stop
knew
it.
Greg.
Stop it. He's Charles Bricker. They talked about the
He
colonel.
went
They
through a
talked-
vigorous vetting
come on,
process.
man.
Greg, I mean, it sounded like him, right?
Don't do that.
He knew the colonel.
It didn't sound like him.
No.
I told Greg that.
I thought it did. The one thing I remembered about Charles Bricker's voice, and we were never buddies or anything. We never knew each other that well. We were like rivals on a beat for a couple of years. Awful man at the time, although perhaps not now. But what I would have told you about his voice is that it was raspy. He always had a raspy, husky kind of voice, which is, I heard yesterday. That's what I heard.
Well, for those listening, we did clear it with Charles saying, hey, this is going to be on the air, but I still have my regrets now.
Well, because we don't know if this guy has complete
If he's all
possession
there.
of his mental
But Jessica,
faculty.
so what we were trying to explain to you what happened for 15 minutes. We started today late because we were trying to explain to you what had happened. Greg, how explain it to Jessica? Because we couldn't explain to Jessica what that phone call was like for us, for you, for anybody.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it because it was out of left field. I wasn't shocked that Charles Bricker agreed to reacquaint with me on the phone. I thought it would be a 2-minute conversation. I did not expect that whole story about how the going 0-14 against the spread had thrown him into a downward spiral to the point where he had a gun in his hand at one point. It was just. I don't mean to laugh, but it was just so
Greg,
off the wall.
you said I'm glad the gun didn't go off, man. I was like, geez.
Yeah.
I mean,
that took such a dark turn.
Do you have any guilt after hearing that?
I am glad the gun didn't go off.
No,
What are
but do you have
talking
any
about?
guilt? Like, he spun out of control and you were laughing at his misfortune, and at the crux of his depression
You had
was the
it
thing
framed.
that
You
you're
still have it framed in your. You still have it framed. Like, I was thinking
Yeah.
about that.
I do. It's right in here. I'll find it at some point and show you.
So no
It's
regret.
still in your phone.
Yeah, I
That's,
have it in here.
but that's an interesting ethical question, right? If someone has wronged you, but then gone through.
He's literally carrying the grudge.
No,
I'm gonna find it right now.
He tried to fix his relationship with Bricker,
Right.
and in his phone right now, 30 years later, he's still carrying a
then,
grudge.
if someone has wronged you and it's something that you haven't forgiven them for, but they've gone through a transformation and they've become a better person, right? Is the onus on us to forgive because this person has changed, or can Greg continue to be like, no, F that guy, he was a dick?
Well, this is what we did with our trilogies recently.
Right.
And I didn't know before yesterday if Charles Bricker was still alive. Greg Cote didn't know if Charles Bricker was still alive.
And I was genuine when I said, I'm glad he's still alive. I'm glad that he's recovered from whatever his demons were, and happiness, all happiness at God's breath.
But that doesn't change the fact that he did those things.
Correct.
Right? Like, you could be happy. Obviously, no, we don't wish death on anyone. That's just an extreme, right? And we, in a perfect world, we all evolve and become better versions of ourselves. But that doesn't change, like, for you, Greg. There's no, okay, that's nice, and I'm happy for that, but that doesn't mean, like, oh, we're cool now, we're buddies.
Right, exactly.
Like, that stuff happened.
At one point, he was a terrible person. He treated other people, particularly women, very badly. But I heard some contrition there. I heard him admit that. Yeah, I used to be like that. Nobody liked me. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty neat thing to have seen in the mirror and dealt with.
Jessica, do you feel like you have a better explanation for what this was?
I just don't want to be involved. Yeah.
Jesus.
Why?
I mean, it was all very awkward, Greg. I'm not sure we should have aired any of it.
Look,
he's showing me on his broken-ass phone. Hold on a second. I got to show you guys this because it does look.
Why are you guys so laughing at the man's
I'm literally I'm holding Greg Cote's carry.
He's in a cult.
Grudge.
He said it wasn't.
It's not a cult. It's a beautiful place.
Sounded like a cult.
And now we're going to get sued for calling God's breath a cult.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not a cult.
It's a cult.
It's a cult in the best way possible.
Are we going to get sued by Charles Bricker or his family? Because I don't know whether we've
just... It took us 10 days to track him down. I doubt it.
That lawsuit's good.
That's actually very possible.
Yeah, well, I don't, because
Listen, management's across the hall, so...
Can we ask management about what's happened here? Because I don't know whether... Was Charles Bricker aware that we were recording that?
God, I hope so.
No, you can't record somebody without them knowing.
It did sound like a personal conversation between Charles and I.
It sounded like two old guys. Look, man.
Whether he grasped that what we cleared with him on the front end and that it was going to go on a podcast, I'm not sure he could wrap his brain around the concept.
Yeah, he thought it was a radio show.
Yeah. If I learned anything from Freedom, it's that when things go awry, just point the finger at someone else.
The point.
Let me go through some of the history here with Greg Cote and Charles Bricker from the old-timey newspaper war days. Because, Greg, you would say, yes, this is right after the Miami New Times. This was pretty much the height of the newspaper wars in South Florida. Yeah. Our paper against their paper, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it was a genuine rivalry. I think of the heyday of newspaper wars as mid-'80s to early 90s, and this was right in the middle of that.
Within those realms, Charles Bricker was the guy at the other paper who had a lot of arrogance for what we at our paper thought was his talent level. He felt like he was better than everybody. Charles Bricker did.
Yeah.
And passed himself off that way, and Greg Cote didn't carry himself that way. And he made Greg Cote feel small because Greg Cote was consulting an imaginary bird to make his upset picks every week, and Charles Bricker was serious football man.
And going 0-14 against the spread one week.
Well, here is what Greg Cote has. He's shown me the photo now. I'm holding the literal grudge in my hands. It looks like something old Ben Franklin papers. It's yellowed newspaper that is on a piece of wood. It is hung up in his office.
It's not like framed in like...
It's not framed. It's taped up with, strip. I'm imagining, is the most amazing 30-year tape you've ever seen. Because
but do you still have it up after yesterday?
Yeah, it's still up.
Oh.
Yeah. In his honor.
In his honor.
Yeah.
You need to tweet this out because it feels like finding a national treasure of some sort. And it just says, capsules by staff writer Charles Bricker, 0-14 against the spread.
All right. I'm going to tweet it out, but I'm going to say, sorry, Charles, as part of the tweet.
It kind of looks like, that fish that's mounted on the wall and starts talking. That's what it looks like.
That is what it looked like. You are so right about that.
Don't worry, be happy.
When the music starts playing. the trout start singing happy songs.
Big mouth bass.
I can't believe you still have that up. Thank you, Jessica.
I'm a hoarder. I mean, it's always been in my office.
Where is it? Is it over your computer?
Yeah.
So every time you sit down to write for 30 years, the spirit of that is hovering over your computer.
That's correct. Yes.
What else is
It's
up
my
there?
muse.
What else is up there?
Oh gosh, I have just memorabilia and pictures and photos and just a bunch of stuff. But that it's not that I look at it every day or notice it. But when all this came up, I realized, hey, geez, I've still got that up there after all this time. How weird am I?
Speaking of noticing, your hair is a different color.
You know what? I thought he was awfully gray last week.
What are you talking about?
And I did not think.
Wow,
I
that's
did not
the
know-
worst
I did
acting
not
job
think
ever.
that Greg Cote's a terrible actor. Greg Cote is a terrible. I thought that Greg Cote had grayed an unnatural amount in 1 week because he did let it go 1 week.
Yeah. Well, last week I dyed it gray, and this is my natural color.
There you
That's
go.
what happened.
That's better.
I don't like it. Too much pepper for me.
Yeah.
You
I
need
like
that
the
salt?
salt in there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
All
you
right.
look at least 3 years younger.
Wow, 3. That's great.
Why did you do this?
It came to my attention that apparently after the show last week, there was conversation with Christopher, you, I think, or maybe it was Mike. I don't know.
No,
who,
I
but-
legitimately asked, was your dad, I think I asked Chris, was your dad this gray before, or does your dad color his hair? Because you grayed a lot in 1 week, and I was worried about I thought, my God, what's happened to him?
Like some
Yeah, I've never seen Greg gray. My entire life, his hair has been that color.
Yeah.
You gotta be a silver. Let him be a silver fox.
Silver fox.
But you can't let it go for 1 week. Then the whole
You
game's
gotta
up.
stick with it. Yeah, you kind of.
That happened to Cowherd one time with like orange hair or something.
There's still some Fox Sports Radio promotional photos that got shown around the country of him with the 9 months that he had jet brown hair. Yeah.
What about not Marv Albert, Fratello. Fratello had that where all of a sudden he showed up one day and his hair was orange, and I'm just like, I mean, what's?
What do you think would happen if Izzy dyed his hair?
Oh man, no, he can't. Like if Izzy came with black hair,
Oh, that'd be great.
I would resent him for it.
Me too.
Love that.
That's
Why
part of the
is
look.
His beautifully gray hair, like it's flawless. At times it looks silver. Yeah, it looks like he's dyeing it silver.
Superhero gray.
Did he
It is.
ever have like regular colored hair? I feel like Izzy came out of the womb just with a shock of silver hair.
I think it's slowly gotten more silver over the years. But why don't we treat Greg's hair with the same reverence?
Yeah.
I mean, because
No, but-
Greg
Greg,
doesn't.
are you a regular dyer? Have you dyed before this?
It's your first DJ?
In my life, yes, I have, but
Yeah.
not regularly and not for a long time.
What made you decide that you wanted to do it?
Well, here's the thing: the mirror is evil. Like when I look in the mirror, I didn't see gray hair; I saw brown hair.
Really?
And when I saw myself in a Zoom or something, I saw brown hair. Others saw gray hair. Now, when I saw that image of me on Instagram burying Decker and Deckel in my backyard, my hair looked very gray at that point. And so between that and the comments about last week on my show here, I decided just to dye my hair, and it was quite an experience.
Did you do it yourself at home, or you went somewhere, got a pro?
Yeah, no, I did it myself.
Just for men?
Just for men. $8.99.
Did you do the touch of gray?
No,
just for
he
men,
didn't,
or?
though. That's the thing. It's very clear you didn't do touch of gray because there's no touch of
I
gray in
know.
there left.
See, I went overboard.
Yeah.
I didn't do the black hair. I did the dark brown. I probably should have done the medium brown, but I'm looking myself in the mirror for the first time, seeing a dark head of hair, and it was creepy. I look like
It's like the reverse rehearsal mirror is what you're looking at.
You know what I look like? Pete Rose showed up at a for sale autograph signing once with
What was
jet
he
black
doing
hair. Yeah, and that's what I look like. I look like Pete Rose.
Greg, I have a question for you. When you went to Publix and purchased this item, did you go and do the self-checkout so nobody saw you, or did you give it to the lady and she was like, "Ugh, like, do you need this? Like, what's the deal here?"
Did you
Like-
do it with any shame?
No, surprisingly, probably I should have, but I bought it among 4 or 5 other things.
Did you guys just skip over? He said something about burying Daryl and Deco.
Yeah, I thought that was like an inside joke.
No, I thought it was something else.
Your boat shoes?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was like dogs or something died, like Heckle and Jekyll.
No, Deck-L and Deck-R. Deckel and Decker is what I used to call
L and
Right.
Yeah, and left and right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We got a guy who talks to Gator after he's fried it to remind that he is the top of the food chain, and we got a guy who talks to his shoes and names them. Put it on the poll, Guillermo, please, at Le Batard Show. Have you ever given your shoes names?
I thought you were going to put it on the poll. Is this show batshit crazy?
So do you like the color or no?
It's a little dark.
So why don't we try a new color next week?
Well, what's going to happen is this supposedly lasts like 8 weeks, but gradually the gray comes back in. So I think I'm going to like it a lot more in a month.
Well, if you don't like it, you could just bleach your hair and then you start from scratch. Like bleach your hair and then we'll try another color.
We should do Rockstar. Haven't you talked about this on your podcast that you're thinking about just dyeing your hair for real? Like, can you in your age, can you reinvent yourself as the guy with colored hair?
On the Greg Cote Show podcast, you mean? No, we've never really talked about that. We did talk about me dyeing my hair because of the grayness and everything. That comes up on the latest episode, available wherever you pod. But it's no, listen, I don't have enough. My hair is so thin. I don't have enough of it. I have the opposite of a luxurious head of hair. And so I'm not going to be the person who like bleaches and dyes and all that. This is.
I think Billy's trying to get you to actually color your hair a color on behalf of the show.
I'm trying to get him to find peace and happiness and find the color that suits him best. And if this isn't it, why be stuck with it for 8 weeks? You know,
it doesn't. It's not. I'll get used to it. It's a little dark. It's fine.
What if we put on a poll like a couple options of colors to try next, and then based on the poll, like that's what you would like do?
Yeah. I guess appearance should be more important to me than it is, to be honest with you.
I want you to go white, like Doc Brown white.
Yeah.
And then you can
wear a
let
lab
your hair
coat.
grow out. Yeah. And just run around and say, Marty! Just yelling, calling Chris Marty every chance you get. Marty!
Yeah. All right.
Great
Okay.
Scott.
I'll get right on that.
See, Back to the Future was a film that came out in 1985, and it starred Christopher. What's good?
I remember that DeLorean, right?
You're talking about the guy from Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd,
yeah,
and Michael J. Fox.
You can't sound patronizing and then remember the name of the lead.
I'm old, okay? That's
it's a different Christopher Lloyd than the one that did what was that show?
Yeah.
Good job, everyone. We're crushing it with naming names today.
Oh, that show, yeah.